In this episode, we discuss clairgustance, psychic taste, and clairallience, psychic smell. We talk about how these intuitive senses are far more than just getting messages from the dead, how you probably use them and you don't even realize it, plus a trick to use them in reverse.
Let's talk about what intuition really is.
Let's look at all the places intuition and ego show up in your life.
Let's share honestly.
Let's do the research.
I'm Jamie Hayhurst.
I'm Heather Wood.
This is the Intuitive Girl's Guide.
Hey Jay.
Hello, hello.
Today we're going to wrap up our Claire's series.
It's about damn time.
I just heard you say that as Lizzo, just so you know. So we're going to finish with clairgustance and clairallience, which is clear tasting and clear smelling, or psychic tasting and psychic smelling. We hate that term, but that's what it's called.
That's right. That's what it means, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's your intuitive inner senses that we're talking about.
Right. We couldn't just these are the lesser known or / used clairs, but we couldn't just not talk about them.
I mean, we sort of avoided it for a little while, but I was like, we got to wrap this up. And I actually think that there's a lot of value in these.
Of course.
Most people, these aren't going to be your main clairs, your main ways to tap into your intuition. But if you understand them and you sort of try developing and using them, then you just have more tools at your disposal.
Agreed.
Which is always a good thing. We need more tools in this world.
Yeah, and people liked this series. We might as well finish it up.
I know, right?
Yeah.
So between these two, there's going to be a lot of overlap, which sounds weird, Jamie, because they're different things. They're tasting and smelling.
Well, I mean, they're close.
Yeah.
Physically.
But the way that you're going to use them is very similar.
Yes.
And I don't know if you know this about me, Jamie, but I tend to overthink everything.
Yes, I noticed.
Okay. So I was really caught up in how do I present this? Should it be two separate, here's this Claire and that Claire, or should it be just together, kumbaya?
What'd you choose?
Because they overlap so much. I decided to separate them so that your brain could go, here's this one and here's that one.
Thank you.
But it's going to be a little bit repetitive, so I'm just warning you that I don't do anything that's not strategic, which some people like about me and some people don't. Whatever.
Some people definitely don't like.
I mean, it depends what end of the strategizing you're on.
Exactly.
But there's a purpose to it, and I actually think it's going to be easier to digest that way. Okay. No pun intended.
Yep, got it.
But there is a lot of overlap.
Yeah.
Okay.
I also think the names are people don't know the names well enough, so that if we separate it, it makes it easier. At least for me, if I know we're talking about one.
Yes. Gustance, clairgustance.
It's a weird word.
It's such a weird word. It doesn't roll off the tongue.
No.
Nobody wants to say it. If someone asks you about your intuition, you're not going to be oh, but you should see my clairgustance. No one's going to say that.
Right, exactly.
So I get it. But what that means is clear tasting or intuitive tasting or psychic tasting. Okay. So what people think of when you say this is that dead grandma, we love a dead grandma.
We do
example.
in this series.
We do.
Yeah.
Dead grandma is giving you a message and letting you know she's there by making you suddenly taste her apple pie.
I was
her
just
famous
gonna say apple pie. Exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
Yes, that is clairgustance. Okay.
Yeah.
But that's probably the least common way that your clairgustance is going to act up. Okay.
Right.
That's so cool, and I hope that happens.
So how is it?
Okay. So I think the most common way is to suddenly have a strange taste in your mouth.
Okay.
Without any explanation.
Got it.
Now, people get caught up here and they're well, a hormone could cause it, or something you ate 2 hours could cause it. A stroke. Yes. Are there physical and medical things that could cause it? Yes. But as we have said many a time on this podcast, the scientific reason for things does not disprove or prove your intuitive reasoning for things.
Correct.
Cause, it's not one or the other, it's both.
They often overlap.
Yes.
Yep.
So if you suddenly have a strange taste in your mouth and you feel like it's something intuitive, it is. Gotcha. It doesn't matter if that also coincides with something you ate or some sort of medical issue you have.
Right. Yep.
Okay? It's still valid. Both are valid.
Right. But obviously our lawyers that we don't really have would love for us to say that if you are having a medical issue, don't just write it off to I'm having a psychic moment.
Please don't do
Please
that.
get help if you're actually having a medical
course.
issue, right?
Right,
But,
because
like,
one doesn't cancel out the other.
correct.
Is the point. Pay attention to all of the things
Right.
all the time.
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Okay. The other thing is like sudden dryness in your mouth.
Oh.
I think you've got to think of Clairgustance as more about your mouth and less about
Taste.
actual taste.
Okay, got it.
Okay.
Yep.
So have you ever, I already know the answer,
Yes.
suddenly got really scared and your mouth went dry?
Yes.
Why do you think that is, Jamie? Is it because our emotions are connected to our physical body?
Yes.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Have you ever had stomachache when you were nervous? Oh my
Yes.
God. These, again, it's not one or the other.
Right, and those all do have like physical, like reasonings, like, you know, causes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there's reasons for this, and your emotions and the way you feel affect you physically.
Right.
And vice versa.
Right.
Okay. So if you suddenly have a dry mouth or a funny taste in your mouth, there is most likely an element of Clairgustance here.
Gotcha.
Okay. Again, terrible word. It makes me think of a goose.
Gustance, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. But that's what that is.
Yeah.
So what it's about is like starting to learn what those things mean.
Right.
And we'll get into that in a minute. But just, I can't say to you, this is why this is not super popular. Okay. I can't say to you, oh, are you suddenly tasting a floral taste? That means that good luck is about to be bestowed upon you.
Yes.
Or you're about to be hit by a bus. Like, that's not how intuition works.
Nope.
How it works is like you need to find what that means to you.
For you.
You need to find the patterns in it.
Yes.
Okay. Or you need to have a friend like me who recognizes patterns way before you'll ever see them, and they inform you of the said pattern.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. So another thing is you can suddenly experience a lot of burping or hiccups. And this is also a sign that you are intuitively picking up on something.
Yes.
Okay.
Anything like that is energy.
Now, I would like to ask you this as the
former Reiki practitioner.
No, but I do like that part of you as the poster child for claircognizance.
Oh yeah,
I've deemed you that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Same.
Okay. I actually think that people who are claircognizant experience these sorts of things to sort of alert them to something going on, because there isn't just a natural alert system in claircognizant people that some sort of energetic thing has been like downloaded.
Yes.
So it doesn't mean that every time you get the hiccups, you just had an energetic download.
No.
Or that you start burping. But it could be a sign to you to look at something, to pay attention.
Yeah. I mean, I think claircognizance in particular is, I think the most subtle of the clairs. And so if you can use other clairs, like you said, as tools to support that, or just to like sort of get your attention, communicate it, whatever it is, I think they start to work like in harmony together.
Yes.
Yeah.
Something that, this is a random, but I know is intuitive and I haven't figured it out yet.
Yeah.
So I'm going to throw it out because it's weird for me, not to sound braggy, but it's weird for me to have something intuitive occur repeatedly for years in my life and for me not to have figured it out.
Oh, okay.
I always figure it out.
Yeah.
That's my thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Every time I eat bread, now I'm gluten-free. So I'm also, has started before I stopped eating gluten. It still continues to this day. Every time I eat bread, I get the hiccups instantly. There is I've talked to doctors about it.
Even gluten-free bread?
Yes.
Okay.
It doesn't make any sense. Hiccups come from like your diaphragm. So it doesn't really make sense that every time I eat, it's like instant. I swallow the bread and I start hiccuping.
That's so annoying.
It is. It doesn't last a super long time, but it happens. Okay.
Ugh.
So I can't figure it out, but I know that there's an intuitive reason that happens when I eat bread.
Right.
Okay. Now there's some connection, obviously, like my body doesn't like to digest bread, even though I'm eating gluten-free bread. But like there's something, it happened since I was a kid. Like this is a long standing thing. It was a joke. Like, oh, she's eating bread. She gets the hiccups. Like you go to a restaurant, and I think they still do it, but they bring you bread.
Rolls. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I'm going to get the hiccups every time. Okay. Since childhood.
Really?
Now, is this Clairgustance? Yes. Am I necessarily getting a magical message from above? No. Is my body trying to tell me something about its feelings towards bread or something connected to bread for me? Yes. That is Clairgustance is my point. If anyone would like to figure that out for me, please let me know. Other than just like my body thinks bread might be dangerous, but like,
Yeah.
I
Or maybe even not. Yeah. Feels a little past lifey.
maybe,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Like, there's
Yeah.
something else there.
Yeah.
But my point is, it's not always like a beautiful magical message or like
Right, exactly.
danger is about to happen. Don't go home.
Well,
that way.
I mean, that's what we always say is
No,
that
it's not a
that's
good sell.
intuition generally isn't that. It's not what you see in the movies. It's not it's not the feather floating down
No.
and giving you a sign from above. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like
right. I know.
it's cool when moments like that happen, but more often than not, your intuition is so much more practical than
Every
that.
day.
Yeah, it's just how we operate.
Yeah. So I know that's like a weird thing to tell people that I get hiccups every time I eat bread, but like
I
that is
don't think
that.
I knew that about you, so that's interesting.
Well, you probably don't see me eat bread very
I
often.
don't.
Like, you know what I'm saying?
I
Yeah.
don't.
So there you go. Okay. So what it's important for you to start to do, whether you feel like you have this Claire very developed or not, like I try to speak it that way. We've talked about that on our other Claire episodes. But
Right.
in cases this is your first one, you know, you can develop any of them. There's sort of this idea that you're just born with super developed ones. And I believe that you're born with some with a bigger capacity than other ones.
Right.
Like
We're
a
like
lot of
naturally
things.
attuned to some of them.
Yes.
But
You're
you
sort
can
of
work on all of them.
same as like a learning style. Like you
Correct.
might not be like too much of a visual learner, but if you wanted to become better at that, you could.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's sort of the same thing.
Yeah.
And like you said before, developing any of these is going to strengthen the other ones.
Correct.
And it could actually provide you with more of those feather floating from the heavens moments if you're using them every day.
Yeah.
Okay.
Agreed.
Or at least you'll notice them. Okay. So what it's important to do is to start connecting the dots. So you go, oh, it's funny. Like I know for me, if I'm around, most of my intuitive stuff is activated by people.
Yeah.
Okay. So if I'm around someone and my mouth suddenly goes very dry, but my energy is focused on that person, I know that they're afraid. And for some reason,
interesting,
my intuition feels I should know
showing
this.
you, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm not going like dry mouth, you know, dead grandma.
Imminent danger.
No,
right.
I'm just being informed.
Right.
But that's because I know my own intuition, and I know that my intuition likes to inform me of things about another person so that I can confirm or deny whatever they are.
Right.
That my intuition loves that shit. It thinks it's Sherlock Holmes.
Right.
Okay.
Well, it is.
Well,
yeah.
So minus the drug addiction. So, you know what I mean? Like this is what you need to know.
Yeah.
If you suddenly get a certain taste in your mouth and this happens to you a lot, you can develop like, oh, this taste means this or this taste means that. And they're going to be general things, which I know isn't sexy, but they're going to be like, oh, generally when I taste this sort of taste, it's about this or it's about that. And it's a general category. Again, it's not super sexy, but that's real.
Right. It's not sexy.
I know. Sorry. Like, I think I dubbed us once like the unsexy
you did.
intuitive girls.
Yes, you
Sorry.
did.
I mean,
it's true though.
I mean, we could be sexy if we tried.
Maybe.
Who cares? Okay. So another thing that I thought was important to talk about with this is that Clairgustance, I think the most often time I see it in people who are like some sort of intuitive practitioners are in medical mediums.
Oh yeah.
And I think that makes a lot of sense because they're very in tune to someone's like physical body and what's going on in them.
Yep.
So I have been in the presence of a medical medium once who they weren't talking to me because it was a group thing. And Jamie and I will tell you that no one ever wants to actually read us.
No, man, they don't.
That could be its own episode. Anyways.
Such a bummer.
You know. So the person right near me was being read.
Of course.
And the medical medium suddenly had acid reflux. Now, did the medical medium have their own acid reflux? No. Did they have the feeling of acid reflux rising up in them? Yes.
Right.
Okay. So that informs them of something going on with the person. And they said, do you get acid reflux? I'm starting to feel it. Ugh,
yeah.
It's a very tough job.
Yeah.
So it informed them of that feeling. And then they began to talk about it. So I think that's a better example of it than like grandma's visiting.
I agree.
Because I do think you can have that experience. Right. I just think if that's the only way you're framing Clairgustance, you're thinking it's never happening when it is.
Got it. Yep. That makes sense. Yep.
Okay.
It does.
Another thing that is considered Clairgustance that like people don't like, people argue with me about this.
Nice.
I mean, they are
Why bother?
I mean, yeah. Is that this is something that happens to me. Like when I touch certain things, I can taste them in my mouth. And that's like if I touch metal, I can't wear rings for a long time because eventually I'll start tasting metal in my mouth. But even just touch it, like certain crystals or rocks, like my mouth will become very salty. But it also happens with different plants. Like if I touch lavender, I can taste it. Like,
interesting.
Okay. That is clairgustance.
Right.
It is not very helpful. I've never figured out why that does any good for me. And people have said to me, like, oh, sometimes if you touch metal and taste it, it means you have too much or not enough. I've heard both metals in your body.
Okay.
That could be true. It doesn't discount the fact that it's also clairgustance.
Right.
But it doesn't make any sense why I would taste a plant.
No, I think that just shows like how in tune you are to the energy of everything around you. Yes. You in particular.
Yes.
You know what I mean? That you are so in tune that you like absorb it.
Yes. It's sort of like, I mean, I think it's a good analogy for just kind of who I am as a person and why I get sensory overload or just overload a lot is because I'm constantly taking in more stimuli or different stimuli than other people are, right?
Yes.
I think you're the same way in a different way.
Right.
Like we're taking in different ones and our bodies are doing different things with it. But my system has a weird tripwire where it's just like all in and then it's suddenly dead. Like it doesn't like slow walk me to too much.
Yep.
So I think it makes sense that my like senses would be like, hey, let's taste it too when I touched it.
Exactly.
Like it just kind
of
get
all the info.
Yeah. And I think it's an important point about intuition is that your intuition works the way you work.
Yes.
Right?
Exactly.
Like if you're super like cautious and closed off on like ratings, like letting someone's energy hit you, you're not going to suddenly get a lot of information from them.
Right.
Does that make sense? So like, yeah, I think this is interesting. Maybe some people won't, but it's along these same lines that sometimes you get a taste in your mouth because you need something, or you don't need it. Like you have too much of it, which I feel like is a very unhelpful way your system works, but you need to be able to use intuition to figure it out.
Right. Your body's like bringing it to your attention.
Yeah. So for example, like you could suddenly be like, I feel like I can taste orange juice. Yeah. Okay. And that could mean that you need vitamin C. Right. Or it could mean that you have too much vitamin C in your system. So I think that's interesting because then it's like your body's alerting you, but you still have to do some intuitive work to figure out what's going on. Right. So both can happen. And again, you have to understand your own intuition. My intuition tends to bring more things to my attention dramatically if there's something I don't need. And it sort of eases in things I do. It's like a much more gentle process where it's like a little bit more jarring if it's like a bad or too much. You just need to know that about yourself. Right. Everyone's is different. Some people with the clairgustance gift very developed or maybe just more naturally born with will get taste for certain emotions. Oh, okay. So you know how some people will like, they know the color of Monday. Yes. Okay. Right. Synesthesia, I think is the name of that. Yep. This sort of happens here too, where certain taste they can tell you what happiness tastes like and sadness and grief and frustration. Okay. And then lastly, remote tasting is a thing. And there's actually, you know how we talk about how the government loves like remote intuition and they do a lot of experiments on it. Yep. They've done this. Really? And there's other ones too. Like, unfortunately, the way the government types up their findings on this stuff, even I can't read through it. It's so boring. Oh my God. Yikes. It's like, no offense to lawyers, but it's like a lawyer drafted a legal document. Yeah. But so some of the other ones I read through were really interesting where someone would be tuned into someone else's energy in a different room or far away, doesn't matter. Like, let's say you were at your house and I was at mine and I was tuned into you and you ate something. People can then taste it. And so they might not be able to say what it was, but they would say like sweet or salty or bitter for what you ate. That's a thing. And there's lots of cool studies. You can even find videos of people doing it that I think is really cool.
It's super cool.
Yeah.
And I just love that the government though will use it for their own practices, but then like not actually say it or accept it publicly.
Yeah, right. It'll come out. It comes out in like these big chunks of like unreleased. Finally, like they lifted the blacklist of it and like put it out to the people, and you're like, okay,
But that's it though.
That's all.
It's still like weird, socially weird.
But if you told a government official that you could do that, they would be like, okay.
Exactly.
Yeah. Any other thoughts about clairgustance?
I don't think so.
Okay. Do you feel like you have it super developed? I don't.
No.
I feel like it's like an occasional thing that might happen to me, but it's not a super strong one. But to some people it is.
Yeah, no, it's cool.
You can develop it more.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a quick break and we'll come back with clairallience.
Okay.
We'll be right back after this short break.
You know what goes great with podcast listening?
A great cup of coffee from a great coffee shop.
Yep, beans roasted in-house, amazing baristas. You know where I'm talking about.
Restoration Coffee. Can we go?
Yes, I need an Americano and maybe a panini too.
Ooh, I need blueberry maple latte and probably a resto bowl.
Ooh, yeah. Check them out and visit restoration-coffee.com.
Let's talk about what we're obsessed with this week.
All right, Heather. This is something you're obsessed with.
I tried to make you be obsessed
with it. I
too.
did watch it, and but sometimes I have to.
You abandon ship.
Sometimes I have to dip.
People who are abandonment people also abandon things, and also people with ADHD do too.
That's true. Yeah. But I watched it and I liked it. I just got to a certain point and was like, meh. I'll take a break, and I haven't gone back to it yet.
I should also say that, like, we've said this before, but I always find it entertaining. That, like, you can watch something with, like, gory murder and, like, in the mind of a serial killer. And, like, and you're fine. You don't need to dip. You don't need a break. You
want
keep
more
watching.
of it.
Yes. But and I can't do that. But when it comes to somebody's behavior and, like, somebody not doing the right thing.
Correct.
That really gets under your skin.
Truly.
And you have to dip there. Whereas me, I'm like very entertained by
very much.
Okay.
So you had me watch the Martha Stewart documentary on Netflix.
Yes.
I watched almost all of it. I didn't like quit early, but like I just think that it's super interesting. And I mean, I want you to talk more about like your thoughts on it. But like I wrote to you, like I texted you when I was like, I think like 10 minutes in. And
it was a wonderful quote that you texted.
I was like, Martha Stewart is an anti-hero.
Yes.
She's the epitome of misogyny in America. That like women can have every quality of a man and be the villain.
Yes.
Like Martha Stewart played by the male playbook.
Yep.
And was vilified for it.
Exactly. I think what I love so much about Martha Stewart is that she doesn't fit into a category.
No.
You can say that about her, but she played the game as a man would.
Right.
But
she played it well.
But she made her living as a very domestic woman. So she never makes any sense as a archetype of a woman in the best way.
Right.
And now let me just say, I very much enjoy Martha Stewart as a person over there. I don't want to be friends with her because it's very clear that she's not a kind person.
No, she's not.
And
nice.
I would never want to actually be friends and like totally celebrate someone who's not kind.
Correct.
Okay.
That's where she lost me.
Yes. Yeah. I know. But I also appreciate a woman standing up and being like, I don't have to be kind. I don't have to be demure. I don't have to, like, the same thing that, like, Simon Cowell or Gordon Ramsay is celebrated for, Martha is vilified for.
Right.
Because not every woman is super kind. And again, I'm not advocating for people to be mean. No. I don't like that about her.
No.
But I also love it about her.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. But I also think that if you watch it, you see that, like all of this, like the domesticity, right? All these like domestic things.
Yes.
That she became famous and very, very wealthy for. She actually really enjoyed.
Yes.
She really enjoyed those things. So she took these things that were like, so like more quote unquote feminine.
Yes.
Right? Like gardens and like growing things and renovating homes and rebuilding and decorating and hosting
Yeah.
and feeding people, right? Like these very feminine characteristics. She took those. She was naturally inclined towards them. But then she made it her business and she made money off it. And that's when people stop liking you. That's when people stop liking feminine attributes.
Well, she built a company around it. And she, I mean, we talk about this, but like she succeeded in the game of capitalism.
She sure as hell did.
As a woman.
Right.
Doing it as like, look at my domestic skills. And if you want to like screw with a man's head, succeed there, baby.
Exactly.
And the thing about her is that like, even in the documentary, it's very clear that they're trying to present her as a really nice person, but that, or not a nice person, but like a hero.
Yeah, or like someone you should sympathize with, like because of the lawsuit and stuff.
But there's all these moments where you see that she is like a garbage person to other people.
Yeah.
Even the producers, do you remember the part where she was like trying to be like, go women, if a man has an affair, leave him? And the guy was like, didn't you have an affair too?
She's like, yeah, but that was different.
Yeah. But I was like, clearly the producer doesn't like her. Like, do you know what I'm trying to say? Like, it's clear that she speaks down to people and makes people feel bad. She doesn't have a lot of empathy.
Right.
Okay?
No.
But she was very unfairly villainized, in my opinion. She went to jail for something that men do all the time and don't go to jail for. And that I'm not sure was guilty of.
No, and they were saying that like, the prosecutors were mad at her, that they weren't finding evidence for what they originally said she did.
Yeah.
But because she wasn't nice, she didn't submit and kowtowed everybody, they nailed her to the wall.
And she can't run her company anymore because of it. But a convicted felon can run our country. Like it's so crazy. It's so misogynistic. Like, so anyways, I think it's really interesting. I think it'll give you a headache. If you have trouble watching people not be kind, like Jamie does, it'll give you a little bit of a bellyache.
Well, and I know this is just an obsessed segment, not a whole episode. I'll say one more thing. The problem with the kindness is that like I can't watch people not be nice. Like she was clearly very mean. She was not a nice boss. She was mean to the people who worked for her.
Oh yeah. You know she's like rude to servers.
100%.
You know what I mean? Like she's not nice.
But like they also use that against her like legally.
Yes.
But like men get to be mean.
Exactly.
Like so men she's are mean like all the time.
She's a feminist hero, but also awful.
Right.
And I think that's what I'm obsessed with the fact that she's both, and like it reminds me of the Medusa thing where it's like you're
hero
either
good or
villain.
you're bad, right?
Yeah. She crosses all those lines.
Right.
And I like that.
Right.
I'd like to know what people thought. If they want a whole episode on it, clearly we could talk about it for a while.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
But let us know.
Yeah.
All right, Jay, let's jump over to Clairallience.
Okay.
Which is just a funny way to say smelling.
Got it.
Okay. If I was to say what I think the worst Claire is, meaning most unpleasant, I would say this one.
Yeah.
Because I experience this from time to time. It's not super strong.
Yeah.
But I don't care for it because it tends to be bad smells.
Oh, really?
For me.
Mine are both.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, same as Clairgustance. I'm going to give you the same example. All of a sudden, you get a whiff of dead grandma's perfume, and she's here to tell you that she loves you and is with you.
Right.
That happens. That's so cool. I think that happens actually more than tasting her apple pie.
I agree.
Okay? But it's not the only version of this.
No.
If that's your expectation, you're going to miss a lot of Clairallience.
Right.
And the thing too is, same as like, it's not like, oh, there's a reason you smelled that. It's not always just internally smelling something that's not there. So, for example, I was somewhere with my brother recently, and we both turned and looked at each other because someone walked in the room with my grandmother's perfume on.
Exactly.
And that was a message. That was Clairallience of a message from my grandmother.
Going through the sense of your smell.
Yes. Correct. That is also it.
It wasn't a phantom smell. It was really there.
And again, the phantom smell thing is sexier.
Well, right. Yeah.
But if you suddenly smell a smell and think of a loved one, that's intuitive.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes. I often, it took me a while to figure this out. Shocking. Like you said, that I would smell a smell that reminded me of someone, not a dead grandmother, but someone who's alive.
Yes.
And for a bunch of times, literally maybe 5 or 6 times.
Okay.
I would then text that person.
Yes.
And be like, hey, what's up? hey, you okay? Hey,
Just
what's
to give
going
you credit,
on?
you're good at the check-in when your intuition tells you to.
Yes.
You do that really well.
Oh yeah, I'll do it. I don't. Oh no, I'll check in.
I know you do that well. Yeah.
And most of the time you don't know. Most of the time the person doesn't know.
You're not like,
know.
I'm
Other
texting
people,
you because
"Are
I
you
got
dead?"
a whiff of
Right.
your perfume that wasn't there, and I think my intuition said I should reach out. That's not what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. Like, are you dead? No, but
Are
like
you dead?
that's what my ego is thinking.
Yeah,
My
the
ego
ultimate
has
abandonment.
tripped all the wires into
Yeah.
me thinking like that person's gonna die. You need to reach out to them now.
Right.
So I will reach out, and I had
Trauma response.
Exactly. Thank you, brain. What I realized after a while was that that's not an alert like I learned in the movies. Like, oh, you smell this person, they're dead or dying.
Yeah.
It's actually, I started to think like, well, what do I associate with this person?
Yes.
Like, what feelings come up around this person in my life?
Yes.
And it was actually that was like that the universe or whomever was trying to signal to me. That's what my intuition was picking up on, was like this energy.
I think that's an amazing point, because it could be an alert to the person.
Right.
But same as when you're like trying to figure out what a dream means.
Mm.
Like if a certain person was in your dream, you wake up, it's fine to reach out and check on them.
Yeah.
It could be.
It's probably not.
But it's probably like what traits you see in yourself that you
Yes.
associate with them. It's
Yes.
probably some sort of alert to that.
Yes.
So your intuition in your awake life works the same way.
Right. And so this was an alert to my, like, this person to me was like a maternal figure.
Yes.
And so it was like, oh, like I need to look into that in myself. Like,
Yes.
why is my system flagging
Yeah.
this like big maternal energy?
Yes. And that is, again, the unsexy, but the more like quote unquote everyday practical version of
And more
intuition.
helpful.
Way more helpful.
Like, rather me like going around like thinking everyone's dead or dying. Like,
I mean,
you know what I mean? Like, that's not super productive.
Agreed. And if you don't have the same form of trauma that Jamie has, you might do it more like me.
Congrats.
Lucky you. And think like, oh, I wonder if I need to just check on that person.
Right.
I'm not thinking that they're dead. I'm thinking
Right.
that maybe they need to talk to me.
Oh, really?
Which is its own
That's nice.
trauma. Yeah. Because everybody needs me all the time, right?
Got it.
It's my job to make sure everyone's okay.
Right.
Okay. So in that overly responsible eldest child issue with its own trauma, I would think like, oh, I should just check in.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with doing that, but it might not be a check-in. So again, in like learning your own intuition and learning how it works is good. Like if something's wrong with you, I'm not going to get a whiff of like a perfume or your shampoo. Like that's not how my system's going to alert me to check in with you, but it might be for someone else. Okay. So knowing that is really important. I think the most common version of people with clairalience is, I'm going to give you an example of my son. Do you remember when he came to us and told us this? So he is very clairalience, but he's not having dead grandma smells. Right. That sounded weird, but you know what I mean. Yeah. Or perfume. Yeah. Okay. He will, like, all of a sudden he'll walk into a room or people will walk in or something and he will smell something bad.
Love it.
Okay. And the bad is that it's an alert to his system. It doesn't mean the person's bad. It means the energy that they just brought in or the energy of the room that he just walked in has something unpleasant in it.
Yep.
Okay.
It's a warning.
Sometimes he'll smell something good and he'll know the same thing. Right. I mean, he's more into when he smells it bad. I think it's more interesting for anybody, but also for a kid.
Yeah.
But that is a very common thing with people with clairalience. Okay. Now, people who have this gift strongly developed and are more naturally in tune with it tend to have a very sensitive sense of smell, but also like a great palate for it. Mm. So where I might be somewhere and just smell one singular smell, I think of it with coffee, like people, or wine, they'll be like, I smell nodes of whatever. And I'll be like, I don't know what you're talking about. I just smell coffee. Yeah. It's that same thing. Like people who have this gift have that more developed as well. They tend to go together. So if you're someone who just like, I even think of the people who cilantro tastes like soap for, it's actually said that they have a more sophisticated palate. Yep. So like, it's sort of like along those lines. If you're that person, you probably have some of these gifts that you can develop. They're also, this gift, people are very in tune to the way that people smell. people, like if I meet someone and I'm talking to them, I'm going to walk away and I'm not going to remember how you smell. Even if it was powerful, that's not going to stick with me.
Oh, I would.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not. I like maybe 5 or 6 times with you, I'd start to recognize your perfume or something. But like what I'm probably going to be really stuck with is like human behavior type things, or like you're like clearly the way you want me to think of you, or the vows you're like, I can sort of start to suss out in you. Those are the types of things that I'm going to like remember about a person.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not going to remember the smell, but people who are clairalients are, it's like that. It's like instant. And they associate you with that smell instantly.
Yeah.
And so that's another sign of it. And so again, if you want to sort of reverse it and develop this, you can try to really pay attention to the smell and connect it. Okay.
Maybe I'm more clairalient than I thought.
I think you are.
Wow,
I mean,
cool.
do you remember what you said to me when you walked in?
Oh, about how I smelled?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm sorry, I smell like my cabin.
And I was like smoke. Yeah. Like fire. Yeah.
Yeah. How on earth why would that bother me?
Because it would bother me.
That's what that's a clairalient person.
Exactly.
Do you smell like BO or cigarettes?
No, I do
because
not.
otherwise I'm fine.
Definitely have deodorant.
I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good. So for both of these things, both clairalients and clairgustance, something I think people don't think to do is to use them in reverse.
Yes.
Okay. So you can use smelling or tasting to trigger intuition or to trigger a message.
Interesting.
So if you want to get a message from dead grandma and you associate her with apple pie.
That's a great point.
Eat apple pie and see if that will help you get a message. Spray her perfume and see if that will help you get a message. But again, it doesn't always have to be dead grandma related. If you're trying to figure out, what's going on with you or something, and like you associate a smell with a feeling, then like go smell that smell. Like even if you don't, go smell a strong smell to like shake up your system a little bit. Taste something to like trigger things in your body. Those things are going to trigger desire, taste and smell. So that's going to trigger your intuition.
That might also be at play when people say things like, when I need to go relax or calm down or like tap into my intuition, I'll go to the ocean.
Yes, 100%.
Because the ocean obviously has its own like healing intuitive qualities.
Are you talking about its good vibes?
Good vibes. But also like the smell of the salt water, right?
Yes.
Like those smells are triggering your brain for some things.
Exactly. I mean, if you smelled a smell that like reminded you of your childhood home and you were trying to heal something in your inner child or from your childhood, that would help you.
Yes.
But people are just always thinking intuitively of like the receiving
opposite, right?
And so like I think if you start to associate it and learn it the other way, and just think about, we are so connected to taste and smell in that way. I mean, I think we see it more with well, maybe not. I was gonna say with food. Maybe that's just me, but like culturally, we make a lot of jokes about like after like you had a bad date and you go home and eat ice cream.
Right.
I mean, that's clear. You're comforting yourself with a thing that felt comfortable that you probably got in your childhood.
Exactly.
Like, do you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like, but also like if you want to take a bath and relax, you're probably going to have lavender scent. Like, so you are already associating it with emotion. So it's not that far of a leap to then associate it with desire and intuition.
Yeah, but I also think that like we say all the time is that like the image that's portrayed through media and through culture about intuition is that intuition is something that just happens to us.
It's like otherworldly.
Right, like it's something that comes
I see what you're saying. Yeah, that we're not a part of it.
Right, like like we're not an active participant in it. Like it's like this vision just hits you, or this psychic experience just happens to you, comes out of the blue. It's like control. A lightning strike, right? Like So
which it can be.
Yeah, no, it can be, but like
commonly.
It's more practically and more powerfully. It's when you're engaging with your own system and your own clairs.
Exactly. So I think reframing these things is super helpful, and actually strengthening these ones, even if you think they're kind of silly and like I don't care about them, the more tools you have to even just confirm something that another part of your intuition, like I don't think I've ever met anyone that clairgustance or clairalience was one of their main clairs.
No, I'm
sure they exist.
Yeah,
but that is not super common.
No,
let's say that. But do I know people who it definitely reinforces their top two? Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, so, and I mean, I think I'm a little bit more clairgustant than you, and you're a little more clairalient than me. And like, knowing that about yourself is important. And you might be hearing this and do what you did. Like, oh, I actually think I have a lot of these things I didn't realize. Those, you might think like, well, who cares if I can psychically smell stuff? I get that. But like, it's going to help reinforce something else.
Yeah.
You know, it's not just like, you know, give me a sign, universe. It could be like, I'd like to just like be open to receiving. And then you suddenly taste something or smell something that sort of confirms it for you. That's really helpful.
Well, I was just going to say, like, people are always looking for confirmation about like their hunches or their thoughts or their downloads about things. Like, what's the problem with like getting a little more of a confirmation?
Right.
Through this Claire, or one of these Claires.
I think the problem is that it's not showy.
It's not showy enough. Agreed.
You know, and unfortunately, we have this idea that that's what intuition needs to be, and that your intuition isn't valuable or special if it's not showy.
Right, exactly.
But honestly, the people I know who are the most intuitive are not necessarily the most showy about it.
100%.
So,
definitely.
Do with that what you will.
Yeah.
But I think if we go now and have some coffee and both smell and taste it and see if we get any messages, maybe that would be a good idea. What do you think?
Perfect.
All right, let's go.
Hey everyone, Heather and I have an ask for you. If you love this episode or if you love the IGG, can you do us a favor? We need you to go onto whatever platform you listen on and download, subscribe, like, love, whatever it's asking you to do. Can you go do those things for us on the platforms that you listen on? It would mean so much to us.
Thanks for listening to our episode. For a way to get in touch with us, please visit our website, intuitivegirlsguide.com. We love hearing your feedback on our episodes.